I don't think any other coach, Jerry Jones, would respect to that level.
I'll give you one, but I know it's not going to happen. And you probably know which name I'm thinking of, and he's not in the NFL right now. Bill Belichick. All right, everybody, welcome back. It is 2025. It is a new year, a new season for Empty the Bench on the Empty the Bench podcast network. We did a video on this, so I'm not going to really rehash the whole thing a million times over and over. I have a new co-host for this show. He's sitting next to me. Whether direction you're looking at, it's that way, right, to my right. Anthony Balester, you'll get to know him in a second. Excuse me, after I do all the pop-up circumstance in the social media. But to follow this show, go to youtube.com/ETB Network. Go check out the show, the video side. Please like and subscribe. We have broken 900 subscribers. We are less than 100 subscribers away from 1,000 subscribers. So please go hit the button and help us get to that number. Also, you want to find us on social media, follow us at ETB Sports, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Like I said, also listen to Empty the Bench wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other audio platform. We are available. Acast, any platforms you can find us. So take us on the road if you can't watch the video side. Also, Empty the Bench is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. College football is on Playback, and we're going to get to watch the national championship. This is a great matchup. Ben is happy, at least, for Ohio State. Johnny's happy with Notre Dame. There's never been a path like this to the national championship as the final teams take the field. Everyone knows this one is bigger. Coverage gets underway at 7:15 p.m. Eastern with our national championship pre-show, with the game starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. Okay, now that I got all that out of the way. Anthony, nice to have you aboard here with the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. And I just want to say, obviously, the guy that I'm going to be replacing, obviously, there's no replacing him. He was a great man and did a lot of great things at this network. All I could do is be the best person I could be and be as great as I could be for you guys and bring as much sports content as I can. And I hope much success for the guy I am replacing. But I am very excited. I can't wait for 2025, and it's going to be a great year for ETB Sports.
Yeah, Anthony and I have a lot in common, whether it's football, basketball. We can talk a lot of different things. I mean, if you haven't seen him already, he does Forever Power 5, which is had a very successful first season for college football, that podcast. You see him with me on Football Forecast as well during our NFL season picks. That show's doing well. And then we're working on a bunch of smattering of other things that are coming as well. So now Anthony is going to be with me on the main show of this network, and we get the journey started. So a lot to get into in this episode 262 of Empty the Bench. Obviously, we would be remiss if we didn't talk the NFL wildcard round. A lot of interesting stories that happen in there. We'll also, and obviously, we can't lead this show without talking about the California wildfires. which have been devastating, and it's damaged a lot of homes. It's damaged a lot of lives. It's put a lot of people on the street. They're talking about estimated damages of $160 billion in Los Angeles. I mean, so we'll kind of get into that and how that relates to sports too. They had to move some NBA games. They had to move the wild card game that was supposed to be for the Rams in Los Angeles. And we'll kind of get into the timeline because that was not a slow timeline by any means. So we'll get into that. Also, the coaching carousel begins, and the Patriots have a new hire. The Cowboys are parting ways with their coach. And the reason if you can't watch the video side, I'm air quoting because is it really parting ways? That's a question we'll answer. Also, we'll get into Deion Sanders, who's been on the news a lot in Forever Power 5, a lot. Now he's making news. Could he be the next Cowboys coach? I don't know if I really want to deal with that headache, but it's out there. Deshaun Watson is Deshaun Watson. I'll leave it at that. We'll get into some NBA drama. A good matchup coming up in a couple days. Also, LiAngelo Ball is making music. If you had that on the bingo card, all hail to you. And then some college football. We'll get into that as well. And some UFC. And we'll finish up with Cooper Flagg, who probably is going to be the next number 1 overall pick in the NBA. So let's get underway. We'll start with the California wildfires. Obviously, this goes beyond sports at the same time, but it is related to sports. Sending thoughts and prayers to people in Los Angeles in the Palisades fire. These fires have been crazy. Like, these fires have been absolutely crazy. They're damaging lives and homes. Some people are not going to get their homes back. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, didn't JJ Redick, the Lakers head coach, lose his house? If I'm not mistaken. And I don't know if you saw also CP3 and Victor Wembanyama went up to his kids to kind of make them feel better. It was a great story. But what are your thoughts on the wildfires so far as we speak?
Yeah, very scary times in California right now. What's really scary is the fact that I think I've read that there was some areas where the fires are where there was fire hydrants that didn't have water. I mean, that's just unacceptable. I'm not sure, being in that area, wildfires are, very common. I mean, that's practically what you get most of the time out there, and that's what you got to worry about. So you'd think that they'd be prepared. I mean, being in Buffalo, we always try to be prepared for snow, and obviously that's no comparison to wildfires. But at the end of the day, they got to be more prepared. And I'm very, very upset. And my thoughts and prayers go out to everybody that's been affected by this. And obviously, some sporting events had to be moved. But obviously, this is at the end of the day, bigger than sports. And it's just unfortunate. And I know there's a lot of people out there who probably didn't have insurance and are going to be without their homes and all the things that they spent their lives building up. And, I just hope with all the donations they get, I know there's a lot of teams in the California area that all joined together. I think they donated close to $8 million. So that should go a long way. And I know there's a lot of celebrities and billionaires out there that are also going to help as well. So hopefully we could do whatever we can to help rebuild that area because right now they need it more than anybody does.
I mean, yeah, schools were closed, churches were closed, stores were destroyed, some are not going to be rebuilt. I mean, like I said, it's a wild, excuse the pun, wild situation going on down in California, and we'll get into it, how it really, I mean, I'll get the one out of the way just because it's not at the height level, but NBA games, it's the regular season, they're able to move them so they don't have to worry about those as much. But if I'm not mistaken, the Lakers were the closest to the wildfires, I think. And that's why they had to cancel the games to protect the fans, to protect the players. I was kind of surprised how many of these athletes have places in Los Angeles, like right where the fires took place. I mean, again, it's scary. I mean, like you said in Buffalo, it's snow. Like just being careful and just not having damage there. Wildfires are a different animal. And on top of that, you had companies like State Farm who were canceling people's insurances right before the incident happened, which that's a whole nother issue we could spend 5 hours on, but we're a sports show, not a political situation. But I just hope everybody recovers and we figure it out. We can have sports, and maybe that'll take the minds off of the serious situations we go through. And I think that kind of leads into the wild card, because let's talk about that timeline, because the fires break out, everything is going on. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's only like 11 or 12% contained as of right now. It was 0% contained while the NFL was trying to figure out, can we play this game, which I think everyone in the world knew there was no way they were playing this game in LA. There was just no way.
Yeah, you definitely knew from the beginning that this game was going to have to be moved. I mean, obviously, I'm glad that the Arizona Cardinals and their organization was so gracious to allow the Rams to be able to move and play there, and they were able to give them a great atmosphere and do everything they can to make them feel like they were at home. But yeah, it's a scary situation, and I'm glad that they were able to move out because they pretty much had no choice. And you think the NFL would have just immediately said like, "Oh, we're going to move this game." It's crazy how there was like that delay of discussion of like maybe there's a way we could pull this game off and keep it in LA. I think obviously we all knew from the beginning this game was going to have to be moved.
I mean, yeah, and I have to give credit to the Cardinals owner. What is his name? Michael Bidwell, I think, is the owner of the Cardinals, who sent the like 2 or 3 giant jet private planes to get the teams, well, to get the Rams out of LA with family, with pets, with everything to Arizona, where they ended up playing the game. And they changed the whole arena. They painted it basically to look like the Rams playing a home game. I think the Rams just had this, almost accidentally gave the momentum, is the way I kind of look at it. Obviously, you don't want to have a chip on your shoulder going into a game sometimes, but I think that the energy of wanting to recover for the city was a huge one. What do you think?
Oh, 100%. You can see that in the way how hard that defense played for the city of Los Angeles. And that basically leads us into this game. And the Los Angeles Rams defense completely took over. I know a lot of people are going to put their blame on Sam Darnold. Rightfully so. He did have that bad interception, and a couple of his throws could have been better. But at the end of the day, 99% of the quarterbacks that would have been behind that offensive line would have struggled as well. I mean, if you look at what the Rams have done over the last 2 years, building up that defensive line, now that Aaron Darnold's gone, it seems like they haven't lost a step. I mean, they drafted Kobe Turner last year, and now this year you got Jared Verse and Brandon Fisk. I mean, those guys are great pillars for this team to build around. And the way this team has drafted over the last few years is why that they're able to stay in contention. I know Cooper Kupp didn't have a huge game, and it's starting to seem like maybe he's on a decline. But thank God they got Puka Nacua. And, you know, I feel bad for any team that has to play this Rams team now. And we said that a few weeks ago when they beat the Buffalo Bills, that if the Rams can sneak into the playoffs, they're the last team you want to play in the NFC.
I mean, I think I said it to you last week on Forecast. I might have said it to you in passing. If the Rams can go far, they're a dark horse team, possibly to win it all. Possibly. I don't know if they're good enough to compete with everybody left. Like with teams like the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Bills and all those teams. I don't know if they have enough firepower, but everyone thought the Vikings were going to run away with this game. Like, after the Vikings basically came out and laid an egg against the Lions for the number 1 overall seed, when I think I had said like the Lions were basically going to have to outscore their own defense to win. And their defense actually came out and played well. And would you say this is back-to-back clunkers, though, for Sam Darnold?
Yeah, and the two biggest games of the year, the way he finished, Sam Darnold's not looking too good, and honestly, it kind of makes the Minnesota Vikings decision pretty easy now and pretty clear. Obviously, you go with J.J. McCarthy. You probably let Sam Darnold walk, or maybe franchise tag him to at least you get some trade value for him. But it seems like this team's going to go in the direction of J.J. McCarthy. Sam Darnold obviously lost himself some money. We were saying coming into this, if he would have got a playoff win under his belt, he could have been looking at a $45 to $50 million a year contract to stay with the Vikings. Now he probably leaves the Vikings. He probably still gets probably a $30 to $40 million contract, but it probably won't be on a very good team. So it looks like the Minnesota Vikings will be moving on, and it's unfortunate for a guy like Sam Darnold who had such a comeback season for it to end this way.
I mean, it took him a while. Obviously, the Jet situation was not great. Then he went off to what was it? The nine? Oh no, he went to Carolina first. Didn't play well there either. Goes to the 49ers. That's more of a stepping stone to sit behind uh who was starting that? Well, Brock. And then finally gets an opportunity in Minnesota because JJ McCarthy gets hurt and he played well, like you said, but unfortunately, in big moments, sometimes he shrinks. Unfortunately, and it's amazing how one playoff victory would have determined contract value for him. Though that's crazy to me.
Well, that's the trend in the NFL. Look what it did for Trevor Lawrence. Look what it did for Jordan Love. So look what it did for Daniel Jones as well. So if you go out there and you get a playoff win, most likely you're going to get a second contract for that.
Well, let's stay in the Los Angeles side of things since we're talking about it. Since we were comparing values of quarterbacks, this was an interesting debate on Football Forecast last week. Let's talk about Justin Herbert because this game shocked me in this outcome. I thought it would at least be close. I didn't expect a 20-point thrashing by the Texans.
I thought it was going to be a 20-point thrashing, but by the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They come out, they score 2 field goals, I think, to start the scoring off. They get a turnover, which they didn't convert to a touchdown, which was probably a momentum killer to their offense. But the Texans just woke up, and C.J. Stroud finally decided to play much better football. Would you agree? Like he was kind of like on a down, and finally he comes back.
Yeah, he definitely played good football, and I wouldn't say he necessarily played great, but he definitely didn't play bad. He played good enough for them to make enough plays. He was able to distribute the ball and keep the ball clean and get Nico Collins involved in the game. But obviously, the story of this game was how bad Justin Herbert played with all those turnovers and how great Will Anderson Jr. and Derek Stingley Jr. in that Texans defense played. Like I said, I think they had a chip on their shoulder from what Rex Ryan was saying about it being a bye week for the Chargers. And that defense definitely took it personally. And I'm glad the Chargers stepped up. They showed that they're not going to be easy out for anybody, and their defense is good enough to win them any game. So you got to give C.J. Stroud credit. Back-to-back years he's in this league, and he's got a playoff win in both seasons. 2 playoff wins already at the age of 23 years old. And for Justin Herbert, he's going to be starting the season off next year at 27 years old, and he's still trying to get his first playoff win.
And he's already paid. Let's not forget that either. Like some people say, like, oh, well, is he still earning a contract? No, he already earned a contract. He got overpaid. He hasn't earned a playoff victory, and now he's going to get heavily criticized even more for not having a playoff victory. And it was interesting because we're going to talk a lot about gambling and spreads on this show too. I thought that line was off. I remember texting you and saying, this is like so obvious. Like you should take the Chargers, like the way the line is set up. And then they get thrashed. And the debate, and I've been hearing this, this is like typical sports talk radio debate BS that I hear all the time. People are saying that Trevor Lawrence is a better quarterback right now than Justin Herbert.
I would agree.
And I'm trying to like play out the weights on each side and understand, like, what are they referring to? Are they referring to because he has a playoff victory? Is that why they're saying he's the better quarterback, or based on the makeup of each quarterback?
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, I followed both these guys for a long time. Obviously, Justin Herbert, I remember when he started at Oregon. And obviously, I've been following Trevor Lawrence since he was in high school because he was a generational quarterback. Trevor Lawrence was the better guy coming out of college. He's a better guy coming out of high school. He does have the playoff win. I think he's the more talented quarterback. But I think the main difference is I think Trevor Lawrence has had the much less talent and the less supporting cast. Justin Herbert, I know he had Brandon Staley, but if you look at the players around him, like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and some of those defensive players like Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa and Derwin James, that's a lot better than what Trevor Lawrence has been dealing with over the years. And Trevor Lawrence hasn't had any help really at coaching staff either. He's about to be on his third or fourth different head coach. So I feel like Trevor Lawrence could do more with less than Justin Herbert. And I feel like if Trevor Lawrence was in the Chargers right now with Jim Harbaugh, I feel like maybe he would have got that playoff win.
So you're saying in a flip scenario, you think Trevor Lawrence would benefit in that scenario?
Oh, 100%.
That's interesting. I'm wondering, so are you saying based on that maybe Herbert's not the eventual long-term fit for the Chargers then?
Well, I think the Chargers are in a tough situation because I think Herbert's one of those quarterbacks to where he's probably about a top 15 quarterback in this league, which is a tough position because it's hard to replace those guys and find a better quarterback in the draft, but you're never going to have a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson. So you're kind of just stuck in the middle with a guy who you probably can't get any better than anyways.
I mean, that's a good point. And I'm just looking at the bracket just because I was curious to see. First of all, I don't think the Chargers were going to end up beating the Chiefs anyway. So I think it would have been a dead end wall, whether it was this round or the next round anyway. I think the Texans are a better matchup. Like, I think it would be a more entertaining matchup because I think they have more weapons than the Chargers do. Who was the guy we were talking about in the live stream the other night? McConkey. That guy's a stud. Like, that guy's a complete stud. He had almost 200 total yards. I mean, I kind of feel bad because, like, that's an incredible game not to win.
Yeah, and he should have had more because Herbert missed him on a couple throws.
And that's another problem with Herbert. Sometimes Herbert doesn't hit his throws with accuracy. And you know what? They have a lot of decent weapons. I don't know if I really like the Chargers running game because it's a lot of injured veteran running backs. Dobbins was okay during the year. He kind of shrunk. Gus Edwards shrunk. Really not a starter. But I guess you have to say, based on the odds, the better team did win then, right? So, all right, let's move along here. You and I kind of chuckled at this game a little bit. Steelers-Ravens. This game was way closer than I think the score really indicated. What do you think?
I don't think it really seemed that close. Obviously, I think Baltimore was the better team. I think Lamar Jackson came and established their game plan. He ran the ball 4 straight times, got the Ravens to an early lead, and then they had Derrick Henry come in and close it out. I think that's a great recipe. You keep Derrick Henry nice and fresh, and in the second half, when your defense is beat up and tired after chasing Lamar Jackson all day, and now you got to deal with trying to tackle Derrick Henry, I'm not sure how you stop it. And now, the Steelers are in this weird predicament to where do you move on from Mike Tomlin and go into a rebuild and risk, being, around that 8 to 10 win mark every year? Because, yeah, is it great to be competitive? Yes. Is it great to just make the playoffs every year? Yes. But after doing it 4, 5, 6, 8, 7 times in a row, at some point you got to get to the second round. And maybe it's best to sacrifice a couple seasons, go into a rebuild, have a couple bad seasons where you only get a few wins, but then you end up being better in the future. So I just think it's time for a new scenery and a change of scenery for both Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
In my opinion, Tomlin's got to go. Like, he's just got to go. I like him. It's nothing against him as a person or a personality, but what's the joke I heard? And actually, I think it's true. They've had 3 coaches since the moon landing. Like, I heard that's actually true because they've had Cowher and Tomlin. I forgot who was before Cowher.
And they had Chuck Noll from the 70s who won 4 Super Bowls.
So, can you imagine having 3 coaches since the moon landing? I mean, it goes to show consistency in coach and believing in the coach. I I kind of put part of this on Najee Harris, though, for having another clunker of a game. Just, he looked off. I'm just looking at the box score. Pickens had 87 yards for 5 receptions, but he hasn't really been good lately. And then there was really no one else. And then watching the interview by Pickens, or the post-game press conference after the game, and him basically saying, like, nah, like, just like, did we improve? Nah. Like, dude, do you want to be here or do you not want to be here?
He's a very talented guy. I don't blame him. I know he hasn't had particularly great quarterback play. And now with them not having a solid number 2 receiver, he's pretty much getting double and triple teamed on every play. He's pretty much the only thing the Pittsburgh Steelers have on offense. But at the end of the day, I think he's got to be a better team player, a better leader. And he definitely seems like he's a diva, which isn't surprising with NFL receivers.
Right. And like just looking at the numbers, the straight numbers, Lamar had a worse game than Russell Wilson. Like you look at the numbers, the yards, they both had 2 touchdowns, but Russ is just not a fit. I think he's going to end up out of the league at some point. Like, do you see another team really picking up Russ and taking that chance? I don't.
I don't either. The only way I see Russell Wilson being a starting cornerback next year is if the Steelers decide to just run it back with Mike Tomlin and him and give it one more year. Other than that, I don't see him being a starting quarterback for any other team. And I know you're mentioning the stats being close, but obviously stats can be deceiving because I think with Lamar Jackson, I think it was more about his efficiency. He only had a few incompletions, but he had a lot of touchdowns. He obviously didn't have a lot of yards because Derrick Henry had most of the yardage, but he was just efficient. And he honestly had a pretty flawless game.
I mean, I think the Ravens' success, even though Lamar will always be the leader, I think the success comes off of Derrick Henry's shoulders for this team to possibly win a Super Bowl if they're going to compete for Super Bowl this year. If Derrick Henry has a stinker anywhere the rest of the playoffs, I just don't see them winning. Unless you think Lamar can carry. What do you think about that?
Oh, I definitely agree, especially in playoff football. Obviously, the quarterback position is always going to be the more valuable. So at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson is going to have to make plays and have to be the most valuable. But I think it's going to take both you guys to win a Super Bowl. It's going to take both Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson both playing great for this team to win. And to beat a team like Buffalo and to beat a team like Kansas City, they're both going to have to be great. But so far this season, for the most part, they have. And that's a very scary situation for Buffalo next week.
All right, quickly, we'll move into Sunday. Let's talk about your Bills quickly because this game was not close. There's not a ton to really say except Josh Allen is Josh Allen and played really well. That throw, and you have to remind me again of the receiver because I don't remember the throw in the back of the end zone on 4th down, getting the elbow down.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable play. I mean, it was 4th and 1. You think Josh Allen just going to run it to the side, run up to the middle? Nope, he just throws it deep to Ty Johnson, a running back, for a touchdown, and that was unbelievable. And that's pretty much all you got to take away from that game. Obviously, Bo Nix got an early touchdown to Troy Flanker to start the game, but pretty much there was a shutout after that, and it was all Josh Allen and the Bills and James Cook.
Yeah, James Cook is turning into a stud running back. Now, if I'm not mistaken, he's on the bigger side for a running back, right? Because they were talking about that, like weight-wise. Like he's a bulkier running back.
Yeah, he's decently sized. He's not overly short, but his main thing is definitely his explosiveness and his vision. I mean, he's got tremendous vision, and it seems like every time he touches the ball, he's always finding himself in the end zone, and that's why he was one of the leading backs in touchdowns this year.
He's also good at running through blocks. Like he'll just bowl somebody over. Like him and Derrick Henry, that's why they've had really good years because they're just willing to run through blocks and give up their body to get the necessary yardage. But we all knew Denver was never going to win this game. There was no shot. Like it was just a matter of were they going to cover, I think, the 9.5 spread when we did the picks, like, which is large. That's a large spread for a playoff game. But once the Bills got going, it was over. Once the offense got going, it was over. The Bills' defense, for the first time in a long time, looked clean, like very clean. Like it's been a long time because they had injuries most of the year. Milano looked really good too. if that defense is clean, that's a scary sight heading for the possible Super Bowl.
Honestly, that's the only thing that ever holds Josh Allen and the Bills back is their defense. Josh Allen pretty much always shows up in these playoff games. It's usually the defense. But if Tyron Johnson and Von Miller and Gregory Rousseau is going to continue to play like that on defense, that could definitely get the Bills to the Super Bowl and maybe be the difference of why they didn't get that far last year.
All right, quickly moving along, Eagles-Packers. This game was fascinating until the Packers just decided to have injuries left and right in the second half of this game. Jordan Love did not look good in the second half of this game, throwing picks left and right. People are saying injuries had to do with it. That's no excuse, in my opinion. It's a playoff game. But what was it? Was Dobbs the first one that dropped? And
so they came into the game without Christian Watson. Dobbs gets that serious concussion during the game, and that looked pretty bad. I really hope he recovers from that. And then obviously they had another injury during the game as well. So they were down without their top three receivers. So Jaden Reed got another injury. So
that looked bad.
Obviously they had some offensive line injuries as well. So Jordan Love having a bad game. He's got to play better than that. But at least in his defense, compared to Justin Herbert, he was without his top three receivers and probably two of his top three offensive linemen, where Justin Herbert pretty much had a full, healthy arsenal.
And what people don't realize is, like, the Eagles had question marks going into this game. Jalen Hurts almost didn't clear concussion protocol. Then you have that weird incident on the Eagles sideline. Not even incident, but like A.J. Brown is reading a book on the sideline. That was the funniest thing of the entire game. Because if I'm not mistaken, he had one reception, right?
Yeah, the passing game for the Philadelphia Eagles was not good in this game. And a lot of people are saying maybe Jalen Hurts wasn't 100%. Maybe the Packers coverage was just playing that good. I think it's a combination of all those things. But if this team is going to want to go deep into the playoffs and win a Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown in that passing game has to really start clicking soon.
And eventually, and again, not that this is a surprise, Saquon Barkley had another good game. I mean, can they win games on his shoulders? Yes. But if you don't have that passing attack, they're just going to stack the box and take the running game away from the Eagles, whoever's playing them. So they really got to find this game. And A.J. Brown was being a little bit of a shit stirrer in the when he was talking to the media at his locker. And I don't know. Do you believe in this whole story, Pop'em circumstance, that there's an issue between him and Jalen Hurts, or no?
I feel like there isn't. I just feel like every time they have a bad game, people are just always going to assume that Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown are mad at each other. I just think that it's just common for when you have a bad game on offense just to be pissed off and upset. I don't think it's personal or that they hate each other. I think deep down they're good friends and that they really enjoy each other. That's why we see, them usually click most of the time. It's just there's going to be times where they have off nights and they may look like they're pissed off, but I think deep down there's no issues internally with the Eagles.
That's interesting. And by the way, Jordan Love, people are now mad because he's making like $55 million a year and just comes out and absolutely just blows up and just has a terrible game. And if I'm not mistaken, people thought Green Bay was going to run away with this game. I didn't think so. I thought as long as Jalen Hurts was healthy, they were going to win.
Yeah, 100%. I thought the Eagles were the more talented team. Even I thought if Jalen Hurts was out, maybe the Packers would have a shot. But with Jalen Hurts in there, I didn't give the Packers a shot at all. And pretty much if you watched Jordan Love closely, he did not look like how he did last season. He was turning the ball a lot more often than he was. And I think Rex Ryan said it perfectly. He's a guy who's got elite potential and can look like an elite quarterback sometimes, but just right now he's not an elite quarterback yet.
Yeah. And then obviously to conclude the wild card weekend, in my opinion, the best game of the entire wild card weekend, Commanders Bucks. This was an interesting quarterback matchup, to say the least. Jane Daniels, Baker Mayfield. Running backs are good in this game. Bucky Irving, Brian Robinson Jr. It was a great overall matchup just across the board. The thing that really cost the Bucs was obviously the botched snap count, which forced the fumble on the handoff attempt. And then, obviously, what everyone is talking about, the doink field goal, which unbelievable way for that game to end.
Yeah, I said coming into this game it was going to be decided on the last drive. I was just incorrect and thought the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield was going to have that last drive. But Jaden Daniels again, another fourth quarter last game-winning drive at the end to win the game. And we see him do it multiple times where the game's on the line and he goes right down the field and gets his team in exactly the position they need to do to win the game. And for a rookie quarterback to be that poised, I mean, he just looks so calm and composed no matter what the moment is, whether it's the fourth quarter, whether it's overtime. And, he's got a lot of similarities to Lamar Jackson. But I think the difference between him and Lamar Jackson is I think particularly early on, he looks like he's a much more accurate passer, and he looks like he's much more poised. And honestly, he might be more clutch and a better quarterback in the bigger moment than a Lamar Jackson. So Jaden Daniels, the sky's the limit with him, and I can't just see what he does in the rest of his career and the rest of his rookie season.
The big thing I said to you on the live stream the other night was that you have to be able to escape the pocket. That is today's quarterback game. If an example I've used when talking to other people is the Eli Manning game does not work in today's football anymore as a quarterback. You can't have cement feet. If you have cement feet in a pocket, you're going to get destroyed, number one, because eventually you're going to run out of time to throw the football. When you look at Jaden Daniels, he was able to glide out of the pocket when he felt the pocket collapsing, and he would just run for the first down to get the 7 or 8 yards necessary. And in the first quarter alone, I think it was all him in rushing yards, right?
Yeah, I mean, the guy's unbelievable. I mean, he broke the rookie record for rushing yards, but then he also broke the rookie record for completion percentage. So the guy is superb athlete and superb as a dual threat quarterback, but he could also kill you with his passing game. He has no weakness right now in his game.
So I look at the numbers, and again, I think the numbers between Daniels and Mayfield are deceiving a little too, because I think Baker had a much better game than the numbers indicate. By the way,
I wasn't at all. I think he played a great game. I don't necessarily even blame him for the timing on that snap. I feel like that was probably the rookie receiver Jalen McClellan just being a little tad bit off.
Right, and then was that the game that had the collapsed pocket? Also, that they had a turnover because they went early. I think that was that game. Also, they got lucky. They were fortunate twice that they got 2 lucky turnovers on the Bucs, and that's probably. That is how they lost the game, because then they drove down the field to get that field goal at the end of the game. But my opinion, best game of the entire wild card weekend. It's not close. People, I don't know. Going into that weekend, what did you expect to be the best game of the wild card weekend before seeing any of these outcomes?
I thought the Buccaneers and Commanders would be second. I really thought the Vikings and Rams was going to be the game of the week. But I wasn't going to be surprised. I thought it would be between those 2 games. But, man, I was definitely disappointed in the Rams and Vikings. I definitely thought that was the game of the week. But thank God we got one game this week.
I was kind of hoping Green Bay, Philadelphia had a little more juice to it just because of the matchup, but it just didn't happen. But we'll look forward and we'll give you picks. Make sure you tune in to Football Forecast this weekend. You'll see us and a bunch of other guys make the picks for the NFL divisional round. The Super Bowl is getting closer. I can feel it. It's the best time of the year, NFL playoffs. So we'll get into that. Now, let's go to the coaching carousel. This is the fun part of the year where you start to see, all right, who's going on interviews, who's going where, who's doing this. Obviously, the first coaching carousel to drop was Mike Vrabel becoming the head coach of the Patriots. Best move I think they did so far. I think it was the right coach.
100%. I think obviously Gerard Mayo, great guy. I just think he wasn't ready to be a head coach. I feel like he was forced into that position way too soon. I think he could potentially be a head coach in the future, just not right now. But a guy like Mike Vrabel, I mean, what he did with the Tennessee Titans, taking them to the playoffs all those years, I mean, that was a franchise that was kind of in the dumpster fire before he got there. And I think he's a guy that's going to hold players accountable. He's going to maximize the talent on the roster. He's going to get the most out of Drake May and the players around him. And I think he's a perfect fit. He used to play for the franchise, won 3 Super Bowls with the team as a linebacker. So I think he's a perfect fit for that team.
He knows the Patriot way. That's the big scenario there. He knows what he's going in. He knows the crafts. He knows how he's going to hopefully fix this team. And he kind of reminds me a little bit of Campbell, a little bit also, because he's willing to take some calculated risks. I wouldn't say it's exactly like Dan Campbell, because Dan Campbell will just go for it on 4th and 15 and hope and pray that he gets 15 yards and gets a first down. Vrabel will take calculated risks. And also, what most people forget to talk about, he's a winner. He's a winner. If you look at his track record, he's a winner. You look at the Harbaugh brothers, they're winners, mostly where they go. So people say, well, why do these guys keep getting jobs? Because they win. They take teams to the playoffs and they win. So I think this can only go up. Unfortunately, I think Mayo was kind of scapegoated a little bit here. Not his fault, 100%. Did he handle the media correctly throughout his full year? No. I think he kind of showed his rookie head coach price a little bit there, but would you give him another year? I don't know. Was it worth giving him another chance, or do you go and get Vrabel, right? I think that's the move.
100%, because if you don't get Mike Vrabel right now, you're not going to get him next year. And right now, there's a lot of great coaching candidates, and they're probably all going to get scooped up this year. So the coaching candidates next year may not look so good. And what's the point of delaying it 1 year when it's just inevitable that you're going to end up firing him anyways? I mean, you might as well get it done and over with now. Let Gerard Mayo move on. He could become a coordinator somewhere, and he can start building his resume back up, and he can start the process of maybe getting a second opportunity later down the road. So I just think it's best for all parties just to move on if you already got 1 foot out the door.
No, I agree. And like I said, you can only go up from there. But speaking of crazy situations and whether this was parting of the ways, firing, in my opinion, it's more firing, but they'll never say it. Cowboys part ways with Mike McCarthy. Obviously, he had the exclusive negotiating window until the 14th. That obviously ran out. It's weird, though, that they denied the Bears an interview with him. Then they part ways, and now he's going to interview with them. I don't see him getting that job. I think they want somebody else. But do you see him getting a head coaching job?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think he will. I think some desperate team, given what Mike McCarthy's done. Obviously, Dallas Cowboys are thinking Super Bowls, but I think some of those teams who just want to try to get into the playoffs for the first time in a while, I think Mike McCarthy's a good fit. He can definitely get you to playoffs. I just don't think right now at this point of his career he's going to be able to get you deep into the playoffs. But man, what a petty for Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys to deny that request, just to part ways with him anyways. And I think the reason why it says part ways is because his contract was basically up. So you can't really get fired when your contract's up anyways. But it seemed like this was inevitable. It seemed like Dallas, if they didn't make a huge playoff run this year, Mike McCarthy was out the door. He did have a lot of injury, losing Dak Prescott. And the Cowboys, given the injuries, they actually finished with a much better record than you would expected. And they actually finished, winning more than what they lost. I think they ended the season on a decent winning record. So they didn't end the season bad. So some people thought that he saved his job. I guess not. But it looks like Dallas is going to be trying to find a new coach, maybe someone that's a former NFL player. But we shall see.
Well, since you're teasing right into that, Deion Sanders to the Cowboys. Now, I don't know if I really want to hear this all off season and all year heading into 2025, 26. This is going to be a headache if this somehow gets pulled off. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I read there's an $8 million buyout with Colorado plus whatever salary he's making. So Jerry would have to pay all that if they want to bring him in. Now, if you want to talk about a popularity and a ratings boom, go ahead. Go get him. From a standpoint of, do I want to build the franchise? I don't know if it's the best move.
It doesn't really make much sense. And since the Dallas Cowboys finished with such a decent record, it would put him in a tough position because obviously, if you get Deion, you're going to have to get Shador. Deion Sanders already said that he's not going to coach in the NFL unless if he's coaching his son. So it puts the Cowboys in a weird scenario. I've heard them saying, "Oh, well, do you just trade Dak Prescott to move up in the draft, and that's how you get Shador Sanders?" But it's just a weird predicament, especially given Dak Prescott's contract. It's really tough. And Deion Sanders has come out and said how much he loves being at Colorado and how much he loves being in Boulder. But man, if he does go to the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, Deion Sanders in year one at Colorado was the biggest story in college football. Now you combine him with the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, that's going to be the biggest story in all of sports, and people are going to be talking about it every day of the offseason.
You know how much of a headache that media room is going to be every week, especially when they get back into the 25-26 season. Imagine Jerry and Deion Sanders with the media and everything. That is like a powerhouse nightmare waiting to happen. Having those two guys, one doing a radio show spot once a week. Can you imagine if they get Deion to do media on a weekly spot? I mean, like.
But Nick, I got a question for you though, because someone brought this up. Now, obviously, Jerry Jones is always going to be the head honcho. He's always going to be the top guy, always going to be the guy you have to listen to and make all the decisions. But out of all the coaches that the Dallas Cowboys can bring in, what other guy than Deion Sanders would be able to come in and be able to get the respect from Jerry Jones to pretty much be able to do kind of what he wants? I mean, Deion Sanders, I think, is the only guy that has the cachet to come in there and tell Jerry Jones what he wants to do and for Jerry Jones to back him up. I don't think any other coach, Jerry Jones, would respect to that level.
I'll give you one, but I know it's not going to happen. And you probably know which name I'm thinking of, and he's not in the NFL right now. Bill Belichick would be the only one I think he would respect with air quotes because of his resume and winning 6 Super Bowls and just having a track record. That's the only other name. And did you see the bogus report that apparently he said if he knew the Cowboys job was available, he would have gone for it? I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah, I don't believe either. I think he wanted to go to North Carolina either way.
I mean, if a head coaching job is available, I think you'd be silly not to at least entertain Bill Belichick coming back to coach, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. The Cowboys are a tough scenario from the standpoint of, do you want to deal with all the headache that Jerry Jones is going to cause every single week? And then you have to speak for your owner who might say something incredibly dumb in the process every week. All right, Jerry said this. Oh, wait, I can't respond. I might lose my job in the process. I don't know. This is going to be a story all off season. And actually, when you take over Football Forecast in the off season, I'm sure this is going to be a topic of discussion.
It won't be the last time I'd be talking about this.
I'll tell you right now, it will be the biggest story in the NFL if this somehow gets pulled off. By the way, I still stand by my Shador Sanders comment. Also, just because I can't deal with all the ego and the headache that he brings. One, wearing the Giants cleats, and then wearing the Raiders cleats. I mean, who's number 1 overall right now? What did it project to be? Who is it?
The Tennessee Titans got the overall
Titans. Pick. You think he's going to pull an Eli and say he's not going number 1 overall?
I mean, honestly, I feel like he might. And honestly, maybe the Tennessee Titans might prefer Cam Ward over Shador Sanders.
I like Cam Ward.
That's the reports that we're hearing right now. I mean, I'm a Shador Sanders guy, but I think both these quarterbacks are going to be franchise guys.
I like Cam Ward. I think he's going to be an NFL quarterback. I think he's an NFL-ready quarterback, actually. So I guess we'll see how that plays out. Moving on to one of the most awkward stories in the NFL. Deshaun Watson tears his Achilles again. I'll reserve my judgment. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, this guy can't be more careless. I mean, the reports I'm reading, it's almost impossible for him to have re-teared his Achilles. He pretty much has been in a walking boot for most of the time. So pretty much the only way, according to the doctors I've read, the only way he could have had this injury is he just had to have been so careless not really caring about his rehab, not doing what he's supposed to do, doing things that he probably shouldn't be doing, probably rolled his ankle doing what he wasn't supposed to do. I mean, come on now. I mean, you already got your money. You basically already beat all the charges. All you got to do is stay healthy outside the football field, and you get your guaranteed money. Now, I guess it might work out for the Browns because the Browns can figure out a way to prove it was a non-football injury. They could not have to pay him the rest of his 90-something guaranteed money. And I mean, that would be awesome because if there's a player that doesn't deserve his guaranteed money, it's Deshaun Watson.
I mean, the ownership for the Browns probably made the most fatal error, giving him a fully guaranteed deal. I will never understand that. I think that's the Haslam family. I think it owns the Browns. I don't know what they were thinking, giving him $300+ million fully guaranteed. I don't know if you saw the video also of him and his girlfriend. He was kind of like dancing around on the side of the street, and they said he was not wearing his walking boot. So a lot of people are saying there's your evidence right there. I think that contract's going to get ripped up. That's just my gut, my assumption. But of course, is the NFLPA going to fight for him? This is always the fun debate of a guy who's in professional sports. Do you defend him? They have to defend him, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much got no choice. And I mean, it just sucks. I mean, for a guy that I really liked when he was in high school and at Clemson and when he was first started off at Houston, I mean, he looked like he was the model citizen. And now there's probably not a guy that I root against more in the NFL than Deshaun Watson. But like I said, he doesn't deserve that guaranteed money. There's enough evidence out there where they could probably take it away from him. One last thing I'll say about this is the Cleveland Browns, either way, will get some salary cap help. I saw that they may have took out an insurance policy. They won't get any salary cap help this year, but the insurance policy could kick in next year in 2026, and they can help them save about $40 million on the cap. So either they get to save that, or maybe they can just get all out of Deshaun Watson's guaranteed money. And if they do, and they can get out of that guaranteed money, they're just going to cut Watson, and we'll never see him in the NFL again.
Yeah, I think his career is over regardless, even if he tries to make his way back. Because now, with that injury, I think he's going to be out all of next year. The way so it's a lost cause all around. I don't know what they're going to do for quarterback. I guess they're going to have to go in and draft a quarterback now in the draft. But there's the quarterback market's not market, but the quarterback list is not deep, right?
I've heard rumors that because Kirk Cousins has already got so much guaranteed money, he could pull the Russell Wilson, go to the Cleveland Browns on pretty much a league minimum, be the starting quarterback there for a year. He fits Kevin Stefanski's system, and then the Cleveland Browns could just draft Travis Hunter, the best player on the board, and try to just be as competitive as they can in 2025.
I mean, that would definitely make them better. It would be an improvement over that quarterback situation, which has been a mess for years. But I guess I'm not going to go too far into it because I've said this many times on this show. Good riddance. Now, at the same time, let me be very clear so it doesn't get misinterpreted. I never wish anybody, even the worst person in the world, to get hurt or in any way, shape, or form. Because that's callous of somebody to say, oh, well, he got hurt, good riddance, he whatever. No, I don't wish injury on anybody. He did it to himself. And that's all we can say to that. All right. Let's transition out of the NFL into the NBA. These two teams are probably the best two teams in the NBA right now, hands down. The Cavs. No one expected the Cavs to have 30 wins right now. That was just incredible. And you look at their core, you look at their team. There was a lot of argument behind the scenes on who was really going to be left with this roster. But Donovan Mitchell finally comes through, finds a home after kind of servicing around in Utah. And the guy is a stud. And now he's fitting in with the right pieces. I like Jared Allen, by the way. I'm kind of mad at the Nets when they traded him away. I like LeVert. He's a good fit there. Mobley finally finding his game after a few years. This team is great. It's finally young again. It reminds me of the old like LeBron rookie day Cleveland Cavs. Um, well, you're a Cavs fan, so obviously you're ecstatic about this.
Yeah, it's definitely great, and it's making me think back in 2016 when
Oh
we won
wow,
the national championship.
wow,
But obviously, for the first time in my life, the Cleveland Cavaliers are actually good, and they don't have LeBron James on their team. But the way that they built their team has been unbelievable. They obviously brought in Jared Allen, they drafted Darius Garland, they drafted Evan Mobley, and then they brought in Donovan Mitchell. Now you got a team that has 4 legit all-stars. 2 of them are big men, and 2 of them are guards. I mean, that's tremendous. And the way this team can shoot the 3 ball, I mean, that's the difference maker. I mean, nobody's shooting threes the way the Cleveland Cavaliers can. I mean, they can pretty much go lights out on any given night, and pretty much they have most nights. That's why they only have 5 losses on the year. And Evan Mobley this season has really taken the next step. I think that's why the Cleveland Cavaliers has taken this much of a jump. And I like the progression they did. They made the play-in tournament, then they made the first round of the playoffs, then they made the second round of the playoffs. So now this year, when we came into this season, we were hoping Eastern Conference Finals. Now maybe we're thinking we're going to win the whole thing. So it's definitely great to be a Cleveland Cavaliers fan right now. And for the Oklahoma City Thunder, I would say the difference in teams is I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is better than any player on the Cavs. I mean, you can make arguments between him and Nikola Jokic for the best player in the world right now and who's going to win the MVP. I mean, those 2 guys are back and forth for the MVP this year, but you also got Jalen Williams. I mean, this team is stacked as well. And the way the Thunder could play defense, that's why we've seen the first matchups go back and forth, and I can't wait for the rematch.
Yeah, they're a great young team, and they're gonna compete for many years. They're not gonna have to pay ridiculous amounts of salary like some other teams are dealing with now, like a Golden State, who's now completely out of everything and way over the cap. Another team like Phoenix, they're way over the cap on top of veteran players. And I think the Bradley Beal situation is a mess over in Phoenix. And now there's rumors that they want to trade for Jimmy Butler. And we'll get to him in a few minutes because that's a whole different story in itself. But this could be matchup for many years to come, these 2 teams. And like I said, it's kind of cool to see the Cavs be successful without LeBron for a change and show that they don't need the king to lead them to the promised land, even though it took him coming back to win, didn't do it on the original terms. By the way, were you a fan with that 2016 shirt? You were.
Oh, of course. I remember when they were down, 3-1. Thinking there was no way. And I'm not gonna lie, when they were able to come back and win that championship, I was definitely crying because I definitely thought the season was over. And when you root for the Cleveland Cavaliers, the bad luck that Cleveland sports team has had, amongst all their franchises, it's hard to see them ever win the championship. And I never thought in my lifetime I'd see the Cavs win. So I was very hyped. And I've been a fan of the Cleveland Cavaliers since at least 2007, 2008.
Oh wow! So you've been around in the long term, being a fan for sure. That was the first time that's happened in NBA Finals, right?
Yep.
What were they down? 0-3?
They were down 3-1.
Or 3-1, but that was an incredible series. Like LeBron had to fight like to no end just to get them back in that. I just remember Golden State fell apart like at the end of that series, and that was like right in the middle of the Golden State dynasty too,
Yeah.
which people forget.
And what people got to remember too, when these 2 teams first match up, the Thunder hasn't had Chet Holmgren. When Chet Holmgren gets healthy and gets added to this Thunder roster, they're going to be a tough team to beat, and this could end up being an NBA Finals preview.
I hope so, because these, like you said, like looking at Shai and Donovan Mitchell and all these different guys, like that would be an incredible younger matchup instead of seeing like veterans. Don't get me wrong. Like when you look at the Celtics who won last year, they're a little bit, I would say they're median age, like the right in the middle. But Jason Tatum is a fun player, like on the younger side to watch. Jaylen Brown is a young player. You catch the recipe I'm going through here. It's all young players working their way up to eventually get enough playoff experience to finally win a title. So this could be fun. I think the Cavs are a little more experienced, I think, in this scenario. Because I think the Thunder are still working out the kinks with some of the young players. But Shai is going to be an unbelievable player for 15, 20 years. Like, this guy's going to be insane. He's probably going to win 4 or 5 MVPs if he keeps playing the way he plays. He also had that streak. What was it, last year? I think he had like a double-double or triple-double streak going at one point. Or I think it was like 14, 15 games in a row of 30 points or something. The guy's amazing. Like, he's going to have an incredible career. I do want to go back to something I had mentioned, which is this mess with Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley. Could Jimmy Butler, like, make it through a situation without causing a headache wherever he is? What do you think?
I mean, I like Jimmy Butler. I mean, he's basically been the heart and soul of the Miami Heat. I mean, he practically carried this franchise to 2 NBA finals, and they have yet to get him a superstar alongside him. So I understand why Jimmy Butler could be frustrated. I definitely think he could have handled it differently, but I definitely think Pat Riley can handle a few things differently as well.
Agreed. And by the way, I think the 7-game suspension was outrageous, by the way. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure Jimmy Butler did a lot of things that the NBA and the Miami Heat don't like. There's rumors and speculation going around that he wouldn't even fly with the team anymore to go to games, which that tells you all you need to know right there, that he doesn't want to be on the team anymore. Pat Riley basically pulled the "I'm not trading you, figure it out" scenario, and look what it's done. It's caused a huge circus in the process. I like Jimmy Butler, but I don't like all the headache and the baggage that comes with him. I mean, you can't say there's no baggage, right?
100%. I mean, that's why he's played for so many NBA franchises. You know, he is a great player, but there's definitely some things off the court that he could fix and handle a little bit better.
I mean, I'm just going back to all the scenarios in my head. Was in Chicago, obviously, where he was drafted. That led to he was going to get traded from there eventually because that just scenario was not working. And then that was Minnesota, right? So he goes to Minnesota. I thought that was actually a good place for him to be with Cat, and I don't know, was Anthony Edwards there yet? I can't even remember.
I'm not sure if they had Edwards yet.
So was he around though when those three? Did they end up playing together at all, or no?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Okay, but still, him and Karl Anthony Towns was a great high-low matchup that they could have used, and they really didn't take advantage. Then he goes to Philadelphia. I even thought that was an even better place to play. And he destroys that. And was he a free agent by the time he was done in Philadelphia? Because I think he signed with Miami, right? So, signs in Miami. Everyone thought, oh, well, he's going to like it in Miami. Most players like it in Miami. That's why they go there. They play decent. Now, he made the playoffs in the first year they went, right?
Yeah, and then he got the Heat to 2 NBA finals.
So they just didn't get over the top. They didn't win. They couldn't get over the top. But he's a good player. Just the baggage is a lot. It's a lot of ego, all the hairdo stuff, all the cartoon stuff. Like, come on, dude. Like, you're a good player, but why would anyone want to deal with you if you're going to act like this, right?
Yeah, I think what's most interesting is what team he's going to end up being on.
Well, the rumor is Phoenix, because Phoenix wants to make the move for the sake of keeping Kevin Durant, which, by the way, that's a whole... You can say the same thing about Kevin Durant, too. How many times has he moved around? I mean...
I just don't know who the Suns' leadership would come from.
That's what I'm talking about. There's no leadership there in Phoenix. I mean, like, can you imagine having Kevin Durant, Jimmy Butler, Devin Booker, Brett? Well, they're not going to be able to keep Bradley Beal and all. They're already way over. They're not going to be able to keep all those guys unless they're going to pay the money like the Warriors did. But I think Beal is going to be the sacrificial if Jimmy Butler ends up in Phoenix. But if I'm not mistaken, Bradley Beal has a no trade clause also.
Yeah,
so,
he'd have to waive it.
So they're kind of up shit's creek without a paddle. This situation's not going to end well. And unfortunately, Pat Riley will win this scenario because usually the ownership always does win. It's just a matter of, do they want to trade him and get something, or are they just going to lose him for nothing in the offseason? Do you think it's worth a trade?
I mean, I would trade. I mean, I think it's always better to get something for him than nothing.
But I think Phoenix is the only place. They're the only one that's going to want to deal. And then the rumor is apparently they have a 2-year, $121 million deal waiting if he comes to Phoenix. Why in God's name would you give him that money? Why?
Man, they're just printing money in Phoenix now.
It's true. And they're not even on linear TV, if I'm not mistaken. I think they were a digital-only channel for their games. I don't know. It's just a headache in that situation. I can't really take sides in this, even though I think Jimmy Butler's baggage is too much and Pat Riley's not 100% wrong. But suspending him 7 games was not going to make the situation any better either.
Yeah, that seemed excessive.
And I don't know if here's the weird thing about that. Usually when you see a suspension, like you'll see it come out in the news and they say, oh, well, the Players Association is going to appeal and he's going to appeal. Did you hear anything about that? Because I did not. So, I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. Just moving quickly so we can get through some of the topics. This one's just funny. This one's just hilarious.
Yeah, I'm glad LiAngelo Ball was able to find his way, and now he's got his own career, and it's off the NBA court. But the song is pretty fire. I'm not sure if you guys were able to listen to it, but anybody out there, definitely give it a listen. It sounds like some of that old school rap from the early 2000s. So if you like that, you'll like the song.
And by the way, Def Jam is a huge name to sign with. People forget that. Like, he's an NBA player, and he signed a max deal in the offseason, right? With the Hornets? Or no?
The brother?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
it's not him,
did,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking of...
yeah, LaMelo did.
Oh, right. LiAngelo's the third that's not even on the NBA court, right?
So it works out because now all the brothers are successful.
I'm sure LeVar is loving this right now.
Father of the year.
Father of the year. I
mean, you got 2 sons in the NBA and 1 with a record deal.
I'm just trying to figure out, like, all right, I failed at basketball. What's my next career path? Oh, it's rapping and getting a $13 million deal with Def Jam. And on top of that, I read like he's keeping the ownership rights to all his music too. And I was like, what? But I don't know. This story was just funny because the Ball family just finds a way to win, even when they shouldn't. Right? I don't know. I just thought this one was funny, and I guess they'll continue to succeed. Well, from a little bit of joking matters, why don't you explain this one to me? I've been reading up on this a little bit. So you want to talk about this a little bit?
So Kyren Lacy, the standout receiver at LSU, who had a good chance at being, drafted as high as maybe the 2nd or 3rd round pick, had a great career at LSU. Looked like he had, the whole world in front of him. Sadly, made a mistake. He was recklessly driving on the highway. Multiple people spot him, and then he crashed, killing a former veteran and taking his life. And Kyren Lacy drove off from the scene and didn't report it at all. Thought maybe he was probably too scared. Who knows what was going through his head? But obviously, he's in serious legal troubles. He was bailed out, but obviously, his football career is over. But that's the least of his worries now. He's going to have a lot of legal battles. I'm not sure if he has any way of winning this legal battle. There's a lot of evidence out there. But man, just what a mistake by a young athlete that cost him his career. And, my thoughts and prayers to the family of the man who lost his life. It's unfortunate that he had to lose his life over someone's stupid mistake. And it sucks that we see, athletes do this, time and time again. And it sucks that this reckless driving has to be a common theme. We've seen guys like Henry Ruggs do this before. And I wish things like this didn't have to happen. But my thoughts and prayers are out to that family. And if Kyren Lacy's guilty of this, then he deserves all the punishment and repercussions that he'll get.
So I'm reading some of the press release. Louisiana State Police say Lacy was allegedly driving a 2023 Dodge Charger on Louisiana Highway 20 and, quote, recklessly passed multiple vehicles at a high rate of speed by crossing the center line. That should have been mistake number one. And entering the northbound lane while in a designated no passing zone. So, number one, how about use some common sense while you're driving to know not to pass if you're not supposed to? It also says, as Lacy was illegally passing the other vehicles, the driver of a northbound pickup truck abruptly braked and swerved to the right to avoid a head-on collision with Lacy. So it just sounds like stupidity driving behind the wheel. Not drunk. They don't report that he's drunk or on drugs or anything. It just sounds like a really just bad driving error.
Yeah, it just seems like he wasn't thinking straight. Recklessly driving, driving carelessly, which is a dumb mistake. And it sucks that someone had to lose their life and multiple other people were injured as well.
It also says police allege that Lacy drove around the crash scene and fled, quote, without stopping to render aid, call emergency services, or report his involvement in the crash.
So who knows? I mean, obviously the crash was probably so significant, maybe he wouldn't have made it, but you never know. You could make that call in just 1 or 2 seconds. Maybe it could be the difference of life or death. But the fact that you don't call emergency services at all, I mean, pretty much just makes a certainty that that person was going to lose their life.
Right. And Lacy's agent said in a statement that his client is, quote, fully cooperating with the authorities. Now, is he doing that because he's hoping that if he cooperates, maybe he has a career? Maybe the charges are not whatever they are. Now, you brought up Henry Ruggs. You actually beat me to that point. I was going to bring that up too. That one's a little different because if I'm not mistaken, he was DUI.
Yeah, he was on alcohol.
So he was an idiot to begin with, Henry Ruggs, and ended up going like 120 plus miles an hour, if I'm not mistaken, and crashing into a car and it exploded. It was a whole thing. And I think it was like a woman and her dog. Like it was a whole thing. It was bad. It's hard to compare DUI to just a normal crash. It's hard. Like they're both stupid and dumb. Like you shouldn't have done either one. But we're in a scenario where sometimes these athletes think that they're above the law. Sometimes. And when you think you're above the law, you do stupid things, and stupid situations have consequences. How good of a player what was the potential level?
He wasn't no first round pick. I mean, he was a guy who had to spend multiple years at LSU. I mean, a lot of that had to deal with the fact that you had Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors on that roster. So he just had to wait his time behind a lot of first round picks. As soon as those guys went to the NFL, he immediately become LSU's go-to guy, top receiver, and it's probably worked his way all the way up to maybe being a second round pick, a guy that could be drafted maybe as high as, top 50, top 40 in the draft. Now, no teams are going to want to touch him. And, I hope my Buffalo Bills stay far away from him if this is true.
Yeah, I mean, and he would have made decent money, too, even as a top 40, top 50 pick, right? I mean, so he threw a career away. I mean, unfortunately. On the opposite side of things, I have a lot of questions to ask about this. Carson Beck, he was in Georgia, right?
Yep.
Okay. So he was a Georgia starting quarterback. He declared for the NFL draft, even though he was hurt, then does a 180 and flips back and says, sorry, guys, I totally just tried to trick everybody. I'm going back to college football. I'm going to go in the transfer window, and I'm going to end up in Miami. And if I'm not mistaken, Miami's giving him $4+ million through the transfer portal. And what? That's my first question. What?
Well, I mean, basically, when he first entered the NFL draft, a lot of experts like Todd McShay was bashing him, saying, you're not ready for the NFL. You had a disastrous season. Why would you go to the NFL now that you're hurt? You're coming off the worst collegiate season of your career. You're going to probably drop now because of the injury to third, fourth round pick, because he was probably a second round pick before the injury. At the after the injury, he's got to at least be a third or fourth round pick. You only give him making a couple $100,000 a year. Why not go back to college and make more money in 1 year than your whole NFL rookie contract? And then you can still go to the NFL. Even if you have a bad year, at least you got the money you got from college. So it just made way too much sense. And maybe after sitting there thinking about it, and who knows, there's always some tampering out there. Maybe some teams threw some money out there and he was just like, $4 or $5 million. Why not? And you get to go to Miami. You get to live in Miami. You get to replace Cam Ward, who just transferred out there, and look at the breakout season he had. So now you got confidence thinking, hey, maybe I could be the next Cam Ward. And if I'm not mistaken, his girlfriend goes to the University of Miami. So now you get to go to the same school as your girlfriend.
It all works out in the end. Maybe you know the answer because you guys talk about this on Forever Power 5, but the money is insane that's going through the portal or in general. These guys getting all these millions upon millions of dollars. Like, is it really worth what these teams are paying for these guys?
I mean, it actually is, because if you look at college football, if you consider it as just a sport, it makes more money in every sport except for the NFL. It makes more money than the NBA. So it brings in billions of dollars. Now that you're finally starting to see the players get some of that money, I mean, you see coaches getting, almost $10 million a year contracts as well. So now it's about time that the players get paid, and they deserve it. And right now, if you're a college quarterback, I mean, if you're not a first round pick, you should be coming back to college every single year that you have, because why not make more money in college and get playing time? And you're only going to get better.
And that's my point. Like, these guys in college can stay in for 3-4 years, make millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and maybe they don't go to the NFL, but they made money that they never thought they were going to make. But Carson Beck was not really a high prospect in general, right? Like, he was
preseason, and then after the poor season he had, he definitely was no first round pick.
Oh, so you're saying originally he could have been a first round pick if he had a good year?
Preseason, he was considered a first round pick. Some people were saying he was in the conversation for the top quarterback. And then after he regressed, people realized that it was Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey who was a large part of Carson Beck's success the season before. So that dropped him quite a bit. Then you add the injury. He was probably looking as a third or fourth round pick. Now, if he gets to come back and make millions of dollars, I think it's a no-brainer.
It's a win-win, it sounds like, in my book, the way this is going. We'll see if it works out. And also, he was hurt. Like, he had the massive injury, so now he's got to recover. What was it, an elbow injury? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was an elbow from getting hit in the game.
Oof. So, we'll see what happens with him. But I don't know if I should be surprised. Just the amount of money that these teams are promising guys. It's like NFL free agency in college now. Oh, I don't like my team? Oh, you'll pay me more? Okay, I'll go there. So, I don't know. All right, quickly, just to get through some final stuff. You want to talk about this really quick?
Yeah, if you're a UFC fan, this is one of the best pay-per-views in a long time. I mean, we get two dynamiting championship title fights. We get Islam Makhachev defending the 155 lightweight belt against Arman Tsarukyan. Now, these guys have fought before, and Islam Makhachev won, but it was on short notice, and Arman Tsarukyan wasn't able to train. He was also much younger. Now, being at the age of 28 years old, he's in the prime of his career, but I think Islam Makhachev is going to win this easily. He's the better grappler, and he's the better striker. I think Arman Tsarukyan, even though he beat Charles Oliveira, I feel like that was a lucky win. I think Charles Oliveira should have won. It was a very close decision that could have went either way. But neither of those guys is touching Islam Makhachev. So give me Islam Makhachev. Obviously, the other title fight, we got Merab defending the bantamweight 135 belt against Umar Nurmagomedov. I feel bad for Merab because he was kind of rushed into this. He really didn't get to have much break from when he beat Sean O'Malley for the title. He kind of got rushed into this because the UFC wants Umar to be the champion. But either way, I feel bad for Merab because I feel like he could beat any bantamweight in the world other than Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar Nurmagomedov may be the most talented bantamweight the UFC has ever seen. I mean, he's got striking ability and he could grapple. I think Merab has great cardio, and obviously he fights like a warrior, and he's going to fight to the end. But I just think Umar can beat him on the feet, and he can beat him on the ground. So I think Islam wins by decision, and I think Umar wins by submission.
Okay. Final topic. and you and I were talking about this before we started. I think this is a good topic. So Cooper Flagg, who is the best college basketball player in the nation right now, this guy's going to be a stud. Like people are saying, like he's going to be better than LeBron and MJ. Like they think he's going to be a really big time player in the NBA. Drops 42 points against Notre Dame. This guy's got a sweet shot.
Yeah, I love Cooper Flagg. I mean, he's 6'9". He can defend. He can rebound. If it wasn't for Victor Wembanyama being such an alien, Cooper Flagg probably would be considered the best player to come out since LeBron. I mean, he really doesn't have any weaknesses. He's already got all that experience playing at Team USA. Now he's getting all this experience playing at Duke. I know there's a lot of haters out there who hate on Cooper Flagg and think, maybe he's not the number one pick. I know you got the two guys from Rutgers, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, but I don't think nobody's touching Cooper Flagg. He's definitely the number one pick. And I think when we start getting midseason, or maybe it's already started, teams are going to start tanking to get into the lottery to get this guy.
Yeah. I mean, we were looking at On3, which does all the NIL projections. They're talking about over $4 million for this guy. Like, this guy's going to be amazing. Like, I don't know if anything will ever be the LeBron out of high school type of thing. It'll never be that, like where the media is constantly following him around the clock. But this guy's going to be a stud. Like he's going to now, unfortunately, which bad team is he going to have to play for?
Looks like right now, maybe the Wizards.
Oh God. I feel so bad for him if he has to go play in Washington like that. That's going to be a nightmare if he somehow has to go do that. I mean, I wish they would change the rules in some scenario, like, oh, I'm the best. Or do you find it ironic, like you're the best player coming out of college, and then you have whatever league it is, you end up like on the worst team in the professional league that year? I find that odd.
Pro sports is the only profession where you don't get to pick where you want to go to work. And I mean, it's weird. When you go come out of high school, the top players get to pick where they're going. When they come out of college, they have no say.
So, I mean, if he ends up in the Wizards, I don't think he's going to be there long because I just don't think they pay their guys. So maybe that's just the stepping stone to get in the NBA, and who knows? Maybe LeBron recruits him to Los Angeles, and then we end up with a whole nother discussion of who the GOAT is in the NBA. But I don't know. He's going to be a really, really, really good player. I'm sure he's going to be like another Nike, because usually that's like the NBA. They usually get the Nike athletes and all that stuff. I'm sure he'll get all his deals and all his NILs. And I mean, he's going to be a one and done though, right? Essentially.
Oh, 100%.
So the NILs are really not going to matter because he's going to be in the NBA in less than a year. So I think that's going to be fantastic. I think he's going to be really good for the league, considering that the NBA is going through a decline in viewership right now. They're not getting enough eyeballs. Now, will the NBA change because now they have all these new digital deals coming with Amazon, and NBC is now coming back with NBA coverage? That's going to be really cool. By the way, I just read that Jamal Crawford is going to be the lead NBA analyst for NBC. So maybe adding Cooper Flagg onto the new NBA rights deal maybe increases that number again for viewership, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I guess we'll see how that plays out. But that will do it for this first episode for you and I. Episode 262 of Empty the Bench. Make sure you go follow us on social media at ETB Sports, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at ETB Sports. Follow our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. We are over 900 subscribers. Please help us as we get close to 1,000. So please go like and subscribe and hit that button that's right below the video. Listen to Empty the Bench wherever you get your podcasts. If you can't watch on the video side, if you're going on a jog or you just don't have the ability to watch video, we are available on all audio platforms. So please go do that as well. Also presented by Playback. Check us out, playback.tv/ETB Network. Both of us and a bunch of the other guys are going to be watching the college football playoff national championship, Ohio State, Notre Dame. that should be fun watching the two fans kind of talking trash against each other with Johnny and Ben. So check that out. 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time starting Monday. Game starts at 7:30. So make sure you join us on there. All right. We made it through this episode. Anthony, any words you'd like to say getting through our first full episode together?
I know, it was a longer show, but we had a lot to recap. We were out of commission for a while, so we had a lot of recaps since we were out. So I can't wait for the next couple episodes. We got a lot of sporting events coming up. We got the NFL division round. We got UFC this weekend. So there's going to be a lot of more NFL coaching news as well. So there's going to be a lot to tune in for the weeks to come.
Yeah. So the plan is to try to get as close to an hour 5 or an hour 10 as possible. Like we said, this is the first show coming back out of the new year. So there was a lot to catch up on. So just bear with us for at least this episode. There was a lot of good stories. The NFL wildcard round and NFL recaps are going to dominate the episodes for the next couple of weeks, at least. So just bear with us on that front. But that'll do it. Make sure you follow Anthony on social media at Balester555. Follow myself at Morgasen Radio as well. We will be busy on the social media fronts. Don't miss the clips. We will be putting those out as well. And until then, we will see you next week for episode 263 of Empty the Bench. For Anthony Balester, I'm Nick Morgasen. Have a good week, everybody. We will see you next week.